everyone, and welcome to Edupedia World Videos. Well, today's topic is conflict management. Conflict management is a very important topic of organization behavior. Well, I am S.K. Puri, your faculty for organization behavior. Yeah, as you know that our main aim is learning and not teaching. Unless until the things are learnt, the objective of the lecture is not done. As before we start any lecture, we define what are the learning objectives of this particular lecture. That means these are the things that you will be learning during the lecture. This conflict management topic will be covered in two parts, part 1 and part 2. And today we will be taking up conflict management part 1. What are the learning objectives of part 1? The learning objectives are following. 4 objectives are there. Number 1, what is conflict? Defining conflict, understanding what is conflict in the terms of organizational behavior. Second, evolution of management thought on conflict. Third is dealing with the types of conflict. And fourth, the process of conflict. Well, in this picture, we see that I honor the life force within all of us. Well, we all have that life force within us, but we perceive things differently as per our different values, opinions, thoughts, cognitive processes, judgments. That is how the conflicts come, but the life force within all of us is same. Now, before we start, we always define the topic so that we understand it in the total perspective of what it is. So let us first define conflict. Conflict is defined as follows. Conflict is a process that begins when one party perceives word has been underlined. I again repeat, it is a process that begins when one party perceives that another party has negatively affected or is about to negatively affect something that the first party cares about. Why we have underlined the word perceives? Because in our experience we have seen that many a time we perceive that the conflict is there, but in reality there is no conflict. It is the perceptual difficulty that we have perceived that the conflict has occurred. Now, conflict is a part of life. Conflict will be there in life. Wherever people are there, conflicts are there. So, we understand that conflicts are part of our life. And further, we understand that the management of conflict involves good and bad choices. What we mean by this is that when the conflict occurs, let us say between party A and party B, it is all about the choices that the party A and the party B take that the conflict is resolved or the conflict is escalated. So its management involves good or bad choices. Even leaving the things as it is, or what we call status quo, is also a choice. Poor choices are made as differences exist and intense emotions they may arouse, creating considerable pressure. When conflicts are there, intense emotions are there and differences are there, and that is one of the reasons that sometimes we make poor choices. Another thing that I would like to point out here is that we should have the mindfulness, means remain in the present moment, the present situation. If we come to resolving a conflict harboring past resentments, then there is always a barrier to conflict resolution. That is why it is there that the harboring past resentments rather than mindfulness in the present situations are sometimes a major barrier in conflict resolution. I have seen that in almost all trainings that we conduct for executives, besides the training on communication and leadership, training is done on conflict and stress management as an important topic of organization behavior. Now, what are the different types of conflict? Conflicts can be interpersonal, interpersonal, intergroup. Intra means within, inter means without. Intrapersonal means when the individual has got conflict within himself. That type of conflict is more of a topic of psychology. So here in this particular lecture we will be more dealing with interpersonal and intergroup conflicts. Interpersonal means when two parties or two persons have got conflict. Interpersonal can be personal as well as situational. Intergroup conflict is a category when one group has a conflict with another group. In an organization there are formal as well as informal groups, and there are various departments, and conflicts do occur between departments, between different functions, between formal and informal groups. So they are called intergroup conflicts. There may be conflicts within the group or conflict among the groups. Because of the interdependence in the present world, where the decision making requires various functions, we are getting intergroup conflicts. That is why in various things like product development or improving the product or launching new product, organizations go for cross-functional teams where people from various departments they come together. These are called cross-functional teams. This is to avoid conflict between various functions. Now there is another classification of conflict: task conflict, relationship conflict, or process conflict. Task conflict are conflicts over content and goals of the work. Relationship conflict is conflicts based on interpersonal relationship, whereas process conflict is conflicts over how the work is done. The most difficult conflicts are the relationship conflicts because they involve a lot of emotions. Let us see what are the signs of a conflict. When the conflict occurs between two parties, between two groups, normally we find some of these statements being made, which are indicating that there is a sign of a conflict. For example, somebody says he is upset with me, she is hot about that. Sometimes we say let them cool off for a while, or let the dust settle. That means at present the situation is very hot, and let the time pass so that there is a cooling off effect, or give them a time out and they will settle down, or he or she is psycho. These are some examples to know that the conflict is there. These are some of the signs. Now let us understand the management thought and the movement of management thought over the important topic of conflict. We see that the management thought has evolved over time from a traditional view to human relations view to interactive view, which is the modern, present day, contemporary management thought over conflict. The traditional view somewhere in the 60s was that the conflict was bad, viewed as negative and harmful, and to be avoided. This is how those times people used to think that conflict has to be avoided in any case. Then came a human relations movement, as we have understood during our previous lectures also, that there was a human relations movement, and the human relations view was that they argued that the conflict was a natural occurrence in all groups and organizations and is inevitable, hence advocated acceptance of conflict. But then the management thought further improved on this, and the present day is interactional view, which encourages a minimum level of conflict to keep the group viable, self-critical and creative. They say that even conflict is essential and it must be encouraged. A minimum level of conflict is to be encouraged if the group is to be viable. Unless until there is a dissent or there is a disagreement, the group does not perform well. That is how the group discusses and encourage each other to express their views and come to a proper decision. This is the interactional view or the contemporary view of conflict management. Now, conflicts can be functional or dysfunctional conflict. Functional conflict is a constructive form of conflict. It supports the goal of the group and improves its performance. But dysfunctional conflict is a destructive form of conflict and hinders the group performance. These definitions will come again and again when we have further discussions on the management of conflict. Now let us come to conflict resolution. We understand from the present day management thought that conflict is neither abnormal nor irreversible. Conflict is inevitable. Basically, we have seen through our observations and evidence says that chronic communication difficulties between two or more individuals are usually evidence of unresolved conflict. Supposing the communication difficulties continues to be there, this is an evidence there is an unresolved conflict. Another important thing that we see is that we have a desire to be understood, but we don't have a desire to understand. For becoming an executive who better resolves the conflict, he has both the desires to be understood as well as to understand the other. Communication difficulties must be looked into once the conflict becomes problematic. That what are the communication difficulties between the different parties, party A and party B, who are entered into conflict. Everywhere we turn, we can observe conflict in interpersonal relationships. This is a very common occurrence. Now let us understand what is assertiveness and what is collaboration. We grow up witnessing and participating in conflict with siblings, parents, friends, and neighbors. Assertiveness is a mode of very clear communication. It is a quality of being self-assured and confident without being aggressive. It is a skill which has to be learnt if we have to become better at conflict management. People can be in the extremes. They can be very passive. They may not communicate what is there in their heart or in their mind, or they become aggressive. Both the extremes are bad. Assertiveness is in between, when you communicate to the other what is there in your views or thoughts and how do you see or perceive the thing in a very clear and clean manner, confident and self-assured manner. That is called assertiveness, and we have seen that conflict management requires assertiveness and not going to the extremes of passive behavior or aggressive behavior. Another word that we are using in conflict management is collaboration. Collaboration is when both the parties, they collaborate with each other, they honor each other, respect each other, and hence they want to collaborate in the decision making. That is called collaborative decision making. It's a good approach in many different decision making situations affecting people. The poor resolution of conflict means people have taken poor choices. The two parties have taken poor choices during the conflict resolution, and hence the conflict becomes dysfunctional, or it increases to such a level that it is hampering the organizational performance. Unresolved or under-resolved conflicts result in frustration and destructive conflicts. Conflict management is a must, and unresolved conflicts will always go into frustration. The destructive outcomes can be frustration, conceptualization or perception of the cause. One may perceive that if one has not got the promotion, it is the HR head. So one may perceive, although he may not be the person who has not given you promotion or increment, it may be the management. So there is some conceptualization and perception which is wrongly made of the cause, and express activities towards what we perceive. These all things can be avoided if we have a better conflict management or conflict resolution skill. Now, what is the conflict process? As we say that organization behavior is a field which implies psychology, sociology, anthropology, all these sciences, they use it. Using these sciences, we have understood the conflict process in an organization. What is a conflict process? The conflict process can be seen as comprising of 5 stages. First is that one perceives or potential opposition. Then there is a cognition, the thought process, and personalization. Then there are intentions on the part of both the parties, party A and party B, who are involved in the conflict. And then there are behaviors of both the parties, and that comes the outcomes. This has been depicted in a diagram in the next slide. I can show you the diagram. This is a diagram of the process of conflict. So the first stage is potential opposition, is a perceived opposition, and then you feel or perceive a conflict. Then there are intentions on the parties, the intentions they have. We will talk more about intentions soon, and that from that intentions comes the behavior, and there comes the outcome of the process of conflict. So intentions are decisions to act in a given way in a conflict episode. Intention is the kind of decision that you make in your mind. Now, what are these intentions? They can be competing. Competing means assertive and uncooperative. Means I must win. That is a competing. I must win over the other. This is one kind of intention. The second kind of intention is collaborating. Means I am assertive, but I am cooperative. Means I want to come to a win-win situation. The third intention kind is avoiding. I am unassertive and uncooperative. I want to run away from the conflict. The fourth is accommodating. I am unassertive but cooperative, means I lose and let you win. And compromising is the last one, which is mid-range on both assertiveness and cooperativeness. Compromising is something I lose and I gain, something you lose and you gain. Now, outcome, as we say that after the intentions, the behaviors are there, and then comes the outcome of the conflict. The action-reaction interplay between the controlling parties results in the consequences. The outcomes are functional when it results in an improvement in the group performance, or dysfunctional in that it hinders the group performance. So a good conflict management will come to functional conflict resolution, and a bad choices will result in dysfunctional or hindering the group performance. The conflict intensity is on a continuum. There is a level of conflict, from the level of no conflict to overt efforts to destroy the other parties, where almost violence is there. Sometimes there can be such things we have seen when the trade union people are too much against and they go for strikes, and there is the extreme things that happen, maybe stone throwing or efforts to destroy the other party. That is an extreme. So the level of the conflict is also varying. The major skill in the conflict resolution is to make the right choices, that we have seen earlier also. It is the making of the right choices which is the skill. So here this diagram shows very beautifully the party A and party B. On the horizontal axis we have party B, on the vertical axis we have party A. The outcomes can be win-win, and party A and party B both win, a win-lose, lose-lose, or lose-win. The best is the win-win and the worst is the lose-lose. There is a fifth alternative which we saw in compromising. That means win-lose, lose-win. That sort of combination. That's something I lose and I win something. What I lose, you win, and you lose what I win. That is the fifth one, which is not depicted here. Now, we have done theoretically sufficient on conflict management, and we have seen the intentions of competing, collaborating, compromising, accommodating, and avoiding, and we have defined them. And we say that competing is when I want to win and I want to make you lose. Collaborating is win-win Compromising is win, lose, lose, win. Accommodating is lose, win, I lose and you win. I allow you to come over me. Avoiding is that you avoid the conflict and you hide yourself from the conflict, or you don't want to enter into conflict. You don't want to confront the conflict. So these are the intentions of conflict handling. These are 5 intentions. These will be coming again and again once we try to understand the coping mechanisms or the conflict handling techniques. These have been defined again here. Avoiding, a person may recognize that a conflict exists and want to withdraw from it or suppress it. Accommodating, when one party in a conflict is willing to place the opponent's interest above his or her own. Compromising, a situation in which each party to a conflict is willing to give up something. Competing, a desire to satisfy one's interest regardless of the impact on the other of the conflict. Competing is win-lose. Collaborating is the best one, which we would like that most of the decisions are collaborative decision makings, and most of the conflict resolutions come in a collaborative manner. Collaborating is a situation in which the parties to a conflict each desire to satisfy full the concern of all the parties. I have been into negotiating situations, and I find when both the parties come out of the negotiating room in a smiling, happy manner, they are into win-win. But when during the conflict, during the negotiation, if the negotiation fails, both parties get up and it is a lose-lose situation when they are not able to reach. Avoiding is that you don't want to enter into discussion at all. Well, these are the intentions each party will have, and this will affect the process of conflict management. Having done this, in the part 2, which we will be attempting in our next lecture, the learning objectives will be further to that what we have studied. We will study conflict resolution techniques. Then number 2, levels and causes of conflict in organizations. Number 3, again we will study functional and dysfunctional conflict. Number 4, causes of poor conflict resolution. Number 5, barriers to conflict resolution. 6 is the negotiation from concept to skills. We will go into the process of negotiation from the concept of negotiation to the development of the skills of negotiation. 7th, last, effective mediation. So these will be the learning objectives of next part 2 of conflict management. Please do watch it, and I must thank you very much for listening to my talk on conflict management part 1, and I thank you Edupedia World, and if you like the video, please do subscribe to our channels Edupedia World. I thank all of you, and for more videos log on to www.edupediaworld.com.